episode of the Equity Accelerator podcast, where you and I, we just break it down. We talk about how to create equity in your real estate portfolio, in your real estate business, in your financial portfolio. But also we want to talk about, we talked with Amanda about parenting while having a real estate business at the same time. So I'm hoping that we expand our platform into all areas of anything you can think of to accelerate your equity. You should let us know.
Accelerate your equity.
What opportunities are we missing
in motherhood?
Acceleration in life. Anyway, welcome to the Equity Accelerator podcast. I'm your host, James Adair. I'm with Sierra Pacific Mortgage and the PDX Home Loan Team. I'm a 16-year veteran of the residential mortgage game. And Chris, you're a longtime friend. I've known you for years.
Yeah.
You ran a real estate office for many years. You were a real estate performance coach. You and I had a coaching relationship a few years back, and now we've got this podcast thing going, and I just love having conversations with you. And so now we decided to record it and just share it because we're exhibitionists. And
yes. Yeah, that's right.
Last week's episode, we finally broke the seal on the idea of liability management and how that makes working with us different than most other lenders.
Mm-hmm.
My mission with my clients is to help them build wealth faster with the mortgage conversation. And I do it because I am a certified liability advisor. I have a CLA, asterisk, TM, trademark. And we've been taught to analyze every real estate and mortgage decision by using 7 concepts. And I didn't really get it. I talked about the first 3 because the first 3 are the most important, which are safety, liquidity, and rate of return.
Yep.
And then there are 4 additional concepts that we keep in the back of our minds when we're helping people make real estate and debt repayment decisions. Okay. So it's safety, liquidity, rate of return.
Yep.
What are the other 4?
And then we have taxes.
No, you weren't supposed to say that. We have taxes is one of them.
Oh, I thought you said, what are the other ones? Do you want me to go into the other 4?
I forgot that you knew. I thought you were going to be like, dude, I don't know.
I wrote them down. I know them all.
Taxes are like later in taxes. So the 4th one is called hidden costs.
Okay, good. Yeah.
We're going to dive into today.
Love that one.
And then leverage is another big one. We kind of touched on that in the last week. Taxes, which of course,
I nailed that one. And
diversification. Those are the 7 things. Those are the 7 ways that real estate and mortgages touch your financial life.
Got it.
So the number 1 being safety. Whenever, are your dollars, is this the safest position for your dollars? That's always the prime directive, is being defensive instead of offensive. Safety, liquidity, rate of return. We went into that. So today I wanted to dive into hidden cost, which I think is the most interesting aspect of this conversation that I have with clients, because a lot of people do come to the mortgage conversation with the idea that they're missing something, or there's all these fees and it's this whole new language, and they feel like you could just be charging me anything and I wouldn't understand. I wouldn't know it necessarily,
Yeah.
Hopefully they're not feeling that way, but I think in the back of their minds, there is a leap of faith that they have to take when they work with anybody that they end up working with.
Right. Sure.
But the hidden cost is not a cost that, like a fee that we're hiding. We disclose. In fact, we over disclose every fee that could possibly be, embedded into a mortgage transaction. But the true hidden cost is the decision about how much money to put down, and should you borrow the money, or should you invest the cash that you could have put down more and borrowed less? So, for instance, could you put 50% down on a $500,000 house, or 20% down on a $500,000 house? What's the hidden cost of putting less down and keeping cash on the sideline?
Got it. Okay.
Right. Yeah. So in order to make that decision, there's 2 concepts that I want to introduce. One's called EPR, which stands for, it's not the APR. APR is your annual percentage rate. It's a technical term about the total cost of borrowing over the life of the loan. Personally, I think APR is a very flawed concept. I don't think it's that meaningful for people. But EPR is your effective percentage rate. And I think that's extremely meaningful for people.
I've never heard of that until you told me today. And I've been connected to this industry for 17 years. I'd never heard of EPR.
EPR. So it's kind of clever because it's like, sounds like a mortgage term, and it is. But your EPR is basically your tax adjusted cost of borrowing. So if you are in your primary residence and you've got purchase money connected to the property, you're borrowing that money at a certain rate. And that rate is like the headline number. But if you're deducting it from your income, your adjusted cost is your rate minus your tax benefit.
Okay.
So what you do is you just subtract your, like, let's say you get a purchase money loan and the rate is 4.75% and you're in a 30% income tax bracket. You just take 4.75 times 30% and you subtract that from the rate. And the difference is 3.325. So your tax adjusted cost of borrowing is not 4.75. A lot of people think, oh, if I'm paying extra to my mortgage every month, I'm getting a 4.75% return on that money. But in fact, you're only getting a 3.32% return on that money.
Interesting.
Because you're eliminating future tax benefit and, you're not taking it. So, and it's a simple interest benefit as well. So that's just 3.325 of money that you will not pay on in the future.
Right. Got it.
So the EPR is the measuring stick we use to decide to repay our debt or pay another debt or put that money somewhere where you can achieve leverage. You can put that into mutual funds where you're going to get a 5, 6, 7% return that's compounding over time.
Right.
And so when you compare borrowing at an X percent and putting the money somewhere else that gains a higher percent, over time, you're going to come out ahead. So we have to understand what's your tax adjusted cost of borrowing. What could you do with that money besides put it down on your house? Maybe you don't feel like you could make a return in the investment. And if that's true, then we should put it down.
Right.
But if you feel confident that you can put that money somewhere else and get a return, we call that the second concept. We call that your lag, your liability asset gap. Okay. So the difference between the value of the asset and the cost of the liability. And at some point, those are the key numbers to it. So the cost of liability is the EPR, right?
Right.
And then the benefit of the asset, that's up to you to come up with a conservative concept. Hopefully you can partner with a financial advisor to help you figure that number out. And then we'll know for sure that we're doing the right thing. And I can't tell you how powerful this idea is. Over time, these decisions seem small. It seems like, oh, I'm just going to save $100 a month by putting an extra 30 grand down. But if you put that 30 grand into a mutual fund and let it ride for 10 years, that could be your kid's college. That could be your kid's college fund right there. And it, only cost you $100 a month. And now college is paid for because you swapped one for the other and you leveraged. So that's a huge concept that I love to put into play. And it's a big one for my partnerships with financial advisors as well. Oftentimes financial advisors manage assets for people, but they don't really manage their debts, the other side of their balance sheet. So we try to partner with them to collaborate on managing both sides of a family's balance sheet. And oftentimes they'll get a phone call from their clients, a financial advisor get a phone call from a client. Hey, I need to take out $200,000. What? Why? Like, oh, we're buying a house at the beach and we're putting $200,000 down. Right.
Yep.
Oh, geez. Like, when do you close? Oh, we close in 5 days,
Yeah.
It's like, man, I wish we had talked about this, And so having a partnership with a liability advisor like myself, gives them a mechanism and a reason to have that conversation early. Hey, if you're buying real estate, you have to call us. We want to make sure we're integrating this with your financial plan. We don't want to put too much down. We don't want to remove money that's leveraged and growing and and put it down, and remove it. The hidden cost isn't borrowing less. The hidden cost is the value of that cash over time.
Right.
So, and oftentimes people will just pull the trigger on a mortgage, like, oh, I just want a 15-year loan and I want to pay it off faster. And it's I get half off the interest rate, or I get a lower rate, get 15-year loan. Right.
Because we think about mortgages so one-dimensionally, I think we just think, oh, this is the tool I get. This is how I afford something that costs more than I could put cash down for. So I have to get a mortgage.
Right. And I have to get a mortgage, and I really just want to pay it off as soon as possible because I hate having debt. And you have to understand that
Dave Ramsey said so.
What's that?
Because Dave Ramsey said so.
Yeah, Dave, and a lot of my clients subscribe to Dave Ramsey, and I think Dave Ramsey on balance is like a huge force for good.
Yeah.
But this is one area where I diverge from him strategically, and that is, he's like, pay off your mortgage as fast as possible, get a 50, and I see all these ads in social feeds and in, on the internet for like, get the Obama 15-year HARP refi or whatever, even like you see the loans.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah.
Mortgage commercials on television, on cable news or whatever. There's, having mortgage commercials. Trade in for your 15-year loan and save thousands. It's like, no, it's the hidden cost of that is the $500 a month more that you're paying for that amortization experience that could have been going to other leveraged dollars, and you're not going to get that time back. 10 years, $500 a month for 10 years, let's say, saved versus pushing it into your home equity.
Yeah.
I think if you save the money, it's better because it's liquid. If you put it in your home equity, it's not liquid. You don't have access to it. In fact, I have a refinance going right now with a client. Couple of years ago, I helped him refinance into a 20-year loan. He's like, I just want to get a 20-year loan. I want to pay this thing off. And he called me back 2 weeks ago, and he's racked up $30,000 worth of consumer debt. Maybe it's more like $45,000 worth of debt just in a couple of years. And we're going to do a cash out refi, and we're switching him out of a 20 into a 30 because it's like, man, this 20 years too expensive for you. You're racking up debt, because you thought it would save you so much money, but it ended up costing you. Now we have to do another loan. We have to pay fees again. On and on and on. There's all kinds of other outcomes that come out of that. And sometimes a 15-year loan is awesome and it makes all the sense in the world. But my favorite profile for a 15-year mortgage is someone who's like at least 50 years old. So I like the idea of like, well, I want to be mortgage free when I retire. I think that's a great goal. And, so when they're 50, they'll be 65 when that loan's over. And they have every other aspect of their financial plan wired in. Like they're squared away. They have a state pension and and an income property and whatever. Like they're not scrambling to fund their retirement. So that's a situation where I'm like, okay, let's do a 15-year. You can talk me into that. Otherwise, I really think that if you're younger, you're so much better off taking the difference in cost and just putting it to work elsewhere, staying liquid, managing your cash flow. It just gives you so many more options. So
and the elsewhere is the stuff that comes out in the conversation. Like as you ask around and you kind of figure out, you're looking at the EPR, you're looking at the lag, right? You're finding these indicators, they kind of point you, and they can point you in a direction of what might be a logical place to put that money.
And not everybody goes for it. A lot of times I'll sit down with someone, I'll give them this presentation, and I'll put them through the software. I'll put them through the conversation. I'll ask them all the questions, and they kind of nod their head and they're like, this is giving me a lot to think about, James. And I'm like, good. Let me know what you think. And then a week later, they're like, I just want to do 50% down in a 15-year. I just want to do it my way. I can't always change someone's financial philosophy in a 30-minute conversation. So, and that's totally fine. I don't necessarily want to. I just want you to know there's a different way to think about it.
But I think that's, but the picture of this podcast, that if you listen to enough of these episodes, a lot of the work gets done now. It doesn't have to happen in a 30-minute conversation. You guys listening to this can start to chew on, and we're planting seeds for, different ways to think about this. And so I think the hardest part is if it's a new idea and I heard about it for 30 minutes and then I have to go back home and try to understand what this new idea is, it's really hard to embrace it.
Totally.
But if you hear it over time, then it's way easier to embrace.
Yeah. So hopefully we're tenderizing the population for our big ideas, but really it is strategic broad strokes. It's not like I have the corner on,
Of course. Yeah.
So, but the idea is that I think that most people aren't aware of the impact of these seemingly small decisions. Over time, they amplify and they amplify and they amplify, and they really can. I've put it in my software, and I've seen, fast forward 15 years, one decision made at the time of acquisition of the next property, paying off debts X, Y, and Z, and putting 10% down instead of 20% down on the second home purchase. You end up with the exact same monthly payment. But if we fast forward 15 years and adjust for the tax benefit, you come out $80,000 ahead.
Wow.
So that's a real example that it's one of my favorite ones, because it was just like the perfect liability management conversation where it's like exact same payments, but the mortgage tax adjusted against higher cost, even shorter term loans that will expire in the next, 5-7 years. The money you've able to leverage in the shorter term just outpaces the cost of those debts.
And that serves what we call equity acceleration.
Equity acceleration, active equity management. Boom.
Boom. I know, James, that you have an active equity management service program.
I do. So basically all of my clients get at least one phone call from me, an annual client review where I just gather information, make sure I have all the right updated information about their income, any credit concerns they have. I take a snapshot of how much they owe, what their house is likely worth, and make sure that they have a financial plan in place. So my biggest area of opportunity when I have this conversation is to try to recommend a financial advisor for them. Because a lot of times people are like, I've been meaning to do that since the last time we talked, but I haven't done it yet.
Yeah.
So that's a big part of it. But really it's just staying in touch, having this larger concept of how the mortgage can serve you in the short term and in the long term is really valuable for people. I mean, right now it's not, with the rates are a little bit higher, most of my clients have rates that are below what's going on right now. So it's not a conversation of like, hey, let's refinance. But every now and then it is, sometimes there are an opportunity to refinance. They've racked up, they have enough equity to absorb a student loan, to get rid of mortgage insurance, something like that. There's all kinds of little angles we can look at to create some lift in their financial life by using their real estate and mortgage.
It's beautiful. I love it.
So anybody can call me to have this conversation. You can find me at pdxhomeloan.com. My name is James Adair. It's just james@pdxhomeloan.com is a good email for me. So don't be afraid to reach out and grab me. That's all I do all the time. I have this conversation so often, I decided to start recording and have a podcast about it. So I am happy to have it individually with anybody who's listening. If you're listening, you're a client, whether you know it or not.
Beautiful. I love it. James, thank you again for bringing us insights into active equity management and our equity. How do we accelerate that equity? Until next time, take care.
All right. Thanks, Chris. See ya.